I thought loyalty was built by coming home every night until I found her second phone.
I always believed loyalty was something you built quietly over time. I worked long hours, paid every bill on time, and came home every night thinking that my consistency mattered more than superficial charm. My wife, Elena, she used to say she admired that about me. She said I was dependable, solid, someone she could lean on. I believed her because, well, I wanted to. We had been married for 11 years. It wasn't perfect, but it felt steady. At least that's what I thought. The cracks didn't appear all at once. They arrived softly, disguised as distance. Her phone never left her hand, almost glued to her palm. Our conversations became shorter, colder. When I'd ask if something was wrong, she would just smile and say I was imagining things, that I was being insecure. I let it go, choosing to trust her words over my gut. There was no shouting match, no big cinematic reveal. It was just a quiet moment that hit me harder than any argument ever could. I was in the study, looking for a warranty for the washing machine in a drawer full of old papers, and that's when I found it. A second phone. It wasn't an old one, not a broken one tucked away for memories. This one was new, and it was fully charged. My hands felt heavy, almost numb as I picked it up. My heart was pounding, but my mind was strangely calm. I unlocked it using a date I knew she'd never forget, our anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. What I saw on that screen didn't surprise me as much as it should have. It was more like a confirmation of a truth I had refused to see. The messages were filled with an affection that hadn't been meant for me in a long, long time. Plans were written with an excitement I hadn't felt from her in years. There were pictures that made my stomach tighten into a knot. She wasn't careless. She was just so confident I'd never look, that I'd just keep on being the dependable, uncurious husband she'd grown accustomed to. I didn't confront her that night. I just sat there in the dark, the phone's glow lighting up my face, until the sun started to rise. I read everything. I wanted to understand exactly where I stood, where our 11 years had gone. By the time morning came, I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. And clarity, I learned, changes a man more than anger ever could. Over the next few weeks, I became an observer in my own home. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped asking for her attention. I stopped chasing someone who was clearly already gone. Instead, I started pouring all that energy back into myself. I focused on the things I had neglected for so long, my health, my projects at work, and most importantly, my own boundaries. I started speaking less and listening more, not just to her, but to the world around me, and I began to plan my next steps, carefully and silently. Elena noticed the change in me, but she completely misunderstood it. She thought I had finally accepted my diminished place in her life. She assumed my silence was surrender. This made her grow bolder, colder, and more dismissive. She had no idea that silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's a strategy. It's the sound of a man taking back his power. One evening, she casually told me she was going to a company dinner. I just smiled and told her to have fun. As soon as she left, I booked a table for one at the very same restaurant. I didn't choose a table right next to hers. I picked one across the room, with a clear line of sight. I didn't go there to spy or to cause a scene. I went there to close a chapter properly on my own terms. She arrived laughing, radiating a confidence that wasn't for me, holding the arm of the man who thought he had replaced me. She didn't see me at first. She was too absorbed in her new world. But then, as she scanned the room, her eyes met mine. Her smile froze. It was just for a second, but it was long enough. I saw the flash of panic, the mask slipping. I didn't get up. I didn't approach them. I simply finished my meal, paid my bill, stood up, and walked out. I didn't look back. My phone started buzzing before I even reached the car. A text from her. "Where are you?" What was that? I didn't answer. The silence was my response. That night I went home and packed only what was truly mine. I left everything else untouched, the furniture, the photos on the wall, the life we had built together. It wasn't mine to take anymore. The next morning, I met with a lawyer. I was calm, efficient. I was interested in fairness and a clean break. The evidence I had collected made things very simple. When I finally spoke to Elena, it was brief. I told her I knew everything. I told her I was done. There were no accusations, no begging, no raising my voice, just facts. She finally broke down and cried then. But they weren't the tears of someone who was sorry for what they did. They were the tears of someone who was sorry they got caught. The tears of someone realizing that consequences had finally arrived. The divorce wasn't loud or messy. It was surgical. Evidence has a way of ending arguments before they even begin. The man she chose disappeared quickly once things became legally and financially complicated. Her confidence evaporated, turning into panic, and my clarity, it turned into peace. Months passed. I moved into a smaller place closer to my work. Life became simpler. I started sleeping through the night again. I ate better. My thoughts were clearer than they had been in years. One afternoon, I ran into her by accident at a coffee shop. She looked tired, different. The confident glow was gone. She tried to make small talk, to explain, to apologize in her own way. I just listened politely without interrupting. When she finished, I simply wished her well and walked away. I didn't do it out of bitterness or a need to have the last word. I did it because the past no longer had any authority over me. My chapter with her was truly closed. People often think strength has to be loud. They think it looks like revenge, like winning, like domination. They're wrong. Real strength is the quiet courage to walk away without needing the other person to understand why. It's rebuilding your life, piece by piece, without needing an audience. It's choosing yourself without having to announce it to the world. I didn't become some brand new person. In a way, I just returned to who I was before I learned to tolerate being given less than I deserved. And that, I've found, is more than enough. Thanks for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, consider subscribing for more. Take care of yourselves.